Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank for holding this markup today on H.R. 2137, the Federal Law Enforcement Self-Defense and Protection Act. And I ask unanimous consent to insert letters of support from the Federal Law Enforcement Association, Officers Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, and the National Association of Police Organizations into the record.
And without objection, they will be made a part of the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is a targeted solution to a very real problem. Federal law enforcement officers encounter potentially dangerous situations daily, leaving the officers vulnerable to threats. Normally, the federal officers are permitted to carry their firearms 24/7 and 365 days a year. However, during the 2013 government shutdown, at least 3 federal agencies determined that the Anti-Deficiency Act required them to forbid the law enforcement officers from carrying their agency-issued firearms or their personal firearms authorized by the agency. This meant that approximately 1,800 officers were disarmed. This decision put the affected officers at risk, and additionally, policies were inconsistent between agencies. Law enforcement officers are highly trained and know the responsibilities associated with possessing a weapon. It does not make sense to disarm them when they are off duty through no fault of their own. They must be ever vigilant and prepared and ready to respond to a crime or critical incident 24 hours a day, every day. As the kind words of the chairman and also the ranking member pointed out, just in 2012 alone, 1,800 federal law enforcement officers were assaulted with 206 sustaining injury, and then over the past 3 years, 27 law enforcement officers killed in off-duty incidents. We should do everything we can to prevent these tragedies, including ensuring that law enforcement officers have access to the tools they need to protect themselves and the public. H.R. 2137, the Federal Law Enforcement Self-Defense and Protection Act, helps that cause, and I'm glad to see that and know that it's also bipartisan, and I appreciate the work of Congresswoman Gabbard, Congressman Reichert, and also Congressman Pascrell in helping with this bill. You see, it recognizes our law enforcement officers face threats whether on duty or off duty and ensures that there is consistent federal policy for the officers. The bill simply states that in an event of a lapse of appropriations or administrative furlough, federal law enforcement officers are authorized to carry firearms on the day the furlough or shutdown begins, and retains the right to carry their government-issued firearm throughout its duration for personal protection or to respond to a critical incident. It does not protect those who are on administrative leave or who have lost the right to carry, nor does it expand firearms carry to authority to law enforcement officers who currently do not possess it. While this is a critical officer safety legislation is narrow in scope, the impact is large. Also, on a personal note, as a son of a Georgia State Trooper who lived in the home of that trooper for over 21 years, I know that my dad, wherever he would go and wherever we would go, was known as a state trooper. It was not unknown. We lived and worked. He lived around the same people that he would stop. He lived around the same people that sometimes would not take too kindly to his being a law enforcement officer. At 6'2", 250 pounds, my dad had some other motivations to be a little intimidating, but the fact that he was able to carry his firearm is an important part of his job. We just need to recognize this, and I think in light of what came up in the 2013 shutdown, this is a common sense piece of legislation that does not expand or carry any other responsibilities. It simply just gives those law enforcement officers the needs protection that they need to continue to carry their weapons. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would encourage everyone to support H.R. 2137 and recognize these threats that they face, both on duty and off duty. And with that, I will yield back.